My first question is, why don't you recommend day 3 embryo transfers?
Yes, so what we do in IVF, we replicate the nature. So here in IVF, what we are doing, we're assisting nature. This is why it's called assisted conception. It's not artificial conception. It is assisted conception. Exact same way, natural conception, but we assist, we assist eggs and sperm meet in artificial environment in the lab and could become embryo. Then we try to mimic the nature as much as possible, because nature's been doing it for millions of years, and we need to replicate the nature. So physiological, most natural way of providing IVF gives you highest chance. So we should not interfere with how nature does implantation, for example. So I will explain what happens in natural implantation. So when couples don't have any infertility problem, when they start trying to conceive, they keep releasing eggs and like sperm and have intercourse, and one of these eggs gets fertilized and becomes embryo. So fertilization happens in fallopian tube just next to the ovary. So then, which is day 1, yeah, day 0, again the release of the egg. That's day of ovulation is day 0. It's the same day as egg collection. Day 1 is a day of fertilization. Next day, so that egg gets fertilized by sperm. Then you have a two nucleus, 2 PN egg sitting in the fallopian tube. So then it takes for that egg to divide, multiply, and go through all the stages we described earlier, which is the fertilization, cleavage stage, morula stage, blastocyst stage, then implantation. So all these 4 stages happens in the fallopian tube when natural conceptions happen. So then on day 5, embryo lands in the uterus when it's full blastocyst or hatching blastocyst. So until then, embryos grow in fallopian tube. So fallopian tube is very different environment to uterus, different pH levels. It's more alkaline. Uterus is more acidic, for example. It has got slightly different oxygen levels, and it is very similar to the incubators we have in the lab. Why? Because incubators, when they were created, they mimicked fallopian tube. So essentially, whole purpose of IVF clinic or lab is to mimic what fallopian tube does. Fallopian tube fertilizes eggs and incubates the eggs or embryos for 5 days. We mimic that in IVF lab. So essentially, IVF lab is artificial fallopian tube. So what happens is that in naturally, day 3 embryos never come to the uterus for implantation. Why? Because it's wrong environment for that embryo. So embryo stays in the fallopian tube and becomes blastocyst and lands in the uterus. Then day 6, it hatches, and day 7, day 6, it starts implanting. So when you put day 3 embryo in the uterine environment, that's a wrong environment for that embryo. The whole like oxygen level, pH level, nutrition is different in fallopian tube in the uterus. So that uterine nutrition is not optimal for cleavage stage embryos. Uterine nutrition, all sugar levels, all the minerals, optimal for blastocyst or hatching blastocyst stage embryos. So when you put those day 3 embryos, that embryo is in wrong environment. It cannot perform in full potential. So what happens when you transfer day 3 embryo? That embryo sits in the uterus in wrong environment. And if it's really good quality, still manages and keeps dividing, becomes blastocyst in the uterus, then starts hatching on day 6 and starts implanting on day 6 and day 7. It sits in wrong environment for the extra 2-3 days. So a very high-grade embryo still manage and implant. That's why you do get you get some successful pregnancies on day 3. Although the chance for the even same embryo would have been better if it was transferred during blastocyst on day 5. So okay, so first reason why I don't recommend day 3 embryo is you are putting embryo in wrong environment. Embryo is better off to be kept inside the incubator for another 2-3 days because of disturbance. to perform in its full potential, because in incubator's environment mimics fallopian tube's environment. Oxygen levels, pH levels, everything is just exact copy of fallopian tubes. So this is one reason. A second reason for not to do transfer is you cannot select healthiest embryos on day 3. Why? Because a lot of these embryos look like each other. So even sperm is not even got activated until day 4. So eggs run first 3 days in the genome of egg without much of sperm involvement, and you don't even see the sperm factors. So until day 3, a lot of these embryos look very similar, and you cannot tell which one is the highest grade embryo. You may just put embryo which you grade as a high grade on day 3. Then if you let these embryos to incubate another 5 days, actually the embryo you have transferred might have been the poorer grade embryo than all the embryos in the blastocysts, because embryos do not reveal their true nature on day 3. They reveal their true nature on day 5 and day 6. So this second reason is a poor selection of embryos. First reason is a wrong environment for the embryo on day 3. Second reason is a poor selection of embryo. You just transferred wrong embryo and kept the best embryo accidentally, because on the day you cannot tell. Because on day 4, when the sperm gets activated, you're moving to the next phase transition, which is a Morula stage and blastocyst stage. You have a huge drop off. Let us say you have 10 embryos, like 7 of them looking beautiful on day 3. Naturally, on day 4, day 5, a lot of them drop off. Then suddenly, out of those 7 beautiful embryos, you end up with 2 high-grade embryos. So this is truly how embryos develop. So so second reason. And the third reason, you reduce the potential of all the remaining embryos. Let us say you got 10 embryos. You did the day 3 check and you selected 2 embryos and transferred. Then you got another 8 embryos. You assessed under the microscope and changed the temperature, because you're sitting and sleeping in a nice, warm, dark environment, which it should be. This is mimicking fallopian tube environment. You took them out and exposed to very strong light, temperature changes, and poked them and put them back into the incubator. That's actually disturbing those all embryos as well. Then remaining 8 embryos, yes, may grow, but if their potential is good, if they have a borderline potential, you actually may affect their development growth. Yeah, so which means you selected 2 maybe wrong or right embryo, doesn't matter, but you affected all the embryos as well. So 3 reasons. So day 3 is a wrong environment, wrong selection, poor selection, let us say. Third is a disturbance of all embryos. So this is due to these 3 reasons, I do not recommend doing day 3 embryo transfers. You should let the embryos to grow in the right environment, which is incubator, and until day 5. Then you select best quality embryos, or looking at the microscope when they're blastocysts, because they revealed themselves. They've gone through 2 extra phases of development, which is a morula and blastocyst formation. These are critical milestones of embryo development. Poor grade embryos can't go through these stages, and good grade embryos go through these stages. So so for that reason, I recommend doing blastocysts day 5 embryo transfer.